Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. Habakkuk 3:17 through 18, NIV. Today is November 18th, and you're listening to the Daily Devotion Podcast from Devotable. Today's devotion is titled, "A Prophet Just Like Me," and was contributed by Maggie Watson. I completed a teaching series on the minor prophets about a month ago. In my experience, these books are overlooked as key books for application and theological discussion. Not many of us want to dive into all the locust swarms, ancient geography, and invading armies. Books like Obadiah and Nahum are skimmed over to concentrate more on the history books and other bigger books with action and moving poetry. Consequently, I've discovered that these, quote, minor prophets are not minor at all. I have found more personal connection in these books than I ever could in the spectacular stories of Moses, Daniel, Joshua, and the like. I don't see my life as an epic saga. I often want to be able to read a book of the Bible in one sitting and grasp the context of the writing in a few hours, instead of a few months. I have a much better chance of a personal connection when I can wrap my mind around the whole book at one time. My favorite of these books is Habakkuk. It's not a normal prophetic book where God speaks to the people and the prophet writes without input. Habakkuk writes his personal conversation with God, and it is similar enough to my walk with God that I am glued to the page, wanting to understand every single detail of his situation. Waiting. You see, I recently turned 40. It's just a number, but it's also a turning point. I can't help but reflect on major themes of my life and dwell on what I've come to know about my father. I want to know him more. I want my life to show evidence of his imprint on this earth. Habakkuk knows only God's divine power can turn his people away from their destruction. The prophet's passion to plead to God on their behalf is inspiring. Some of the hardest moments of my life have been when God gives the wrong answer to my dilemma, and I continue to be stuck in the waiting. Don't we all hate it when we know God can act but doesn't? In my opinion, my days have been filled with waiting. I got married to God's perfect man for me, but if I'm honest, I think it took God way too long to show him to me. Ladies, can I get an amen? I'm still waiting for God to grow our family. God replies to Habakkuk's cries with an answer he doesn't expect, and really doesn't want. God will use the evil Babylonians to carry out his plan for Judah. We see it over and over in the Bible. But sometimes we just can't believe God would use an even worse trial to draw us closer to him. I struggle with infertility, so Habakkuk and I sit and wait for a different and better answer. See chapter 2, verse 1. I see Habakkuk with a frustrated tone here, one that I share. I get angry with God, thinking nothing he can say will make me feel better. I believe the devil's lies that God doesn't care about little old me and will lead me into destruction just to prove a point. Trust. God replies that the righteous live by faith, chapter 2, verse 4, and he will validate our concerns and bring his perfect answer in time. Habakkuk's response is a growing faith. His even those, chapter 3, verses 17 through 19, are not enough to shake his trust in his provider. I've learned the same. God does have a beautiful and carefully crafted plan for me, even though I may not always approve of His methods. As an application, this often affects my writing on social media. I don't ever want to poison the internet with my immediate and raw emotion toward God about my infertility. I wait. I wait until the sting has numbed a bit, when I can write from a perspective of trust in God. I don't ever want my raw, unfiltered emotion to paint an inaccurate picture of who God is and what I believe about Him. I wait, which leads to trust. What are your even those? Does it seem that God doesn't care? Wait patiently and learn to trust Him. That way, no matter what life throws at you, you can look back on God's past faithfulness and rejoice in the waiting. It can happen. I thank Habakkuk for his example. I connect with this devotion on many different levels. In my opinion, one of the hardest things about the Christian faith and walk is waiting on God's timing. We live in a society, and we've all heard this many times, but it's so true. We live in a society where at the snap of a finger, we can get just about everything or anything we want, especially in American society and culture. We can order food and it's at our doorstep in 20 minutes. We can order just about whatever we want and it's on our doorstep in a maximum of a week. Most often it's there within a day or two. We can drive 10 minutes to a gigantic Walmart store around the corner and purchase just about anything we want. We can find and look up information on anything we want on the internet within a matter of seconds. We have instant access to things that no other society in the history of the world has been able to have access to so quickly. And I believe that that is why it is so hard for us to wait on God's timing. I've shared this before, and I'll continue to use it because it's a great example. Many of you know that we adopted our daughter from Haiti. And during that adoption process, it took us almost 5 years to complete. In the middle of that process was a period of about 2.5 to 3 years where we didn't hear anything. We hardly heard any update on the process. We would hear some updates stateside that, our paperwork is still going through, or we needed to renew this or renew that, or pay this or pay that. But we didn't hear anything about our case in Haiti. We had no updates on if we had a match, if we had a child, what was his or her name. We didn't hear anything of that. And during that process, it was very difficult to understand why it took so long. It was very difficult to wait on God's timing for that situation to play out. When we can't see what is going on because we're in the middle of the weeds, we often have different emotions. People have different reactions to that. Some people become frustrated, some people become angry, some people become apathetic or indifferent. And all of those responses are valid. And sometimes our response to that is to lash out at the situation or post something on social media that we shouldn't, as Maggie alludes to. In reality, what we should do and understand is there is immense benefit in the trial, in the waiting on God's timing. There is an enormous amount of lessons to be learned in the middle of the trial. Some lessons you can only learn in the trial. And although that may not be comforting to hear while we're in the middle of waiting, while we're in the middle of the trial, it is so true. Anyone with any amount of life experience knows that that is true. We learn more when we go through those situations than when we hear about them or we watch something or read something about them. There's something about personal experiences, personal failures, personal life experiences that teach us more than what we could learn when we just hear about it or read about it or see it. So what are your even those that Maggie points at here? What are the situations in your life that you're going through where you're in the middle of waiting? When you're in the middle of a situation and you don't think God even cares about it, what are those? And I would encourage you to talk to God about those situations. Ask Him to reveal the lesson that He has for you. He will, I promise He will. And understand that it may not be on your timetable. Often it's not on our timetables. It's not going to get here in 2 days. It may take a month. It may take 2.5 years. But we need to patiently wait and learn and trust God that His plan is the best for us. And when we emerge out of those situations, we can look back, as Maggie says, and we can see God's faithfulness. And then we can rejoice in the waiting. We can rejoice that we went through that situation. And we can comfort other people who will and are going through that situation as well. So, Maggie, I sympathize, I connect with your devotion here. I know a lot of people connect with this and sympathize with this. And we can learn, as you said, many lessons from the minor prophets, Habakkuk especially, about how to wait on God, wait on His timing. Maggie, I appreciate your devotion here. Short story, Maggie and I went to college together. We actually sang in a small group together. She was good friends with my sister. We hung out together. She moved away to Kansas City. I see her every once in a while as we run into each other at church, when we run into each other at different situations. And Maggie is an amazing person. She lives in Kansas City, Missouri with her husband and dog. They run a machine shop that has been in their family for 60 years. She speaks Spanish. She loves math. She's a wonderful human being. She's a great writer. I would encourage you guys to go check out Maggie's profile at the bottom of today's devotion, where you can learn more and read more about her. Connect with her on the social media profiles that she has listed there. Or if you want to find her profile, go to the devotableapp.com website. Click on the About and Contributors link, search for Maggie Watson, and connect with her over there. Thanks, Maggie. I look forward to what you write for Devotable in the future, and we will definitely be praying for your situation and your time of waiting, and hope that God uses your time of waiting to connect with and help other people. Thank you so much for joining us for today's daily devotion. My name is Landon, and I am the creator and founder of Devotable. If you're new here, we really appreciate you joining in with us as we read these daily devotions created from various Devotable authors. Devotable is a group project where we have over 100 different authors who write devotional content, and we try to do 3 things. We try to encourage believers daily, we try to reach the lost, and we try to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ as far as we can on as many platforms as we can. If you'd like to learn more about Devotable, I would encourage you guys to head on over to our website, devotableapp.com, where you can read about our mission statement, look up our various authors, and just learn more about what we do. If you're interested in contributing to Devotable, we're always looking to partner with great authors, bloggers, or writers. You can go to devotableapp.com/contribute, and you can learn more about how to contribute or write for Devotable. If you're interested in partnering with or helping Devotable in any other way, you can go to that same website and learn more about how to